Hi, David.
Good morning, Dean. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Okay, so a hypothetical. Let's jump in, right? Hypothetical. You've signed a 1-year engagement as a fractional CMO. Today's day one. Um, After you tell folks a little bit about who you are, can you tell them what is a fractional CMO and what does a fractional CMO do in the first 90 days?
Day one's always the fun part. You get to
Mm-hmm.
introduce yourself and give them whatever background you think they need to form a good impression of you. And then the assessments start. Then we start asking questions and we have them introduce themselves, starting with what the CEO's perception of his own role is and going down the team and figuring out who does what with whom.
Right.
And it's a long process of assessment so that we can get to know each other better and I know where to sort of focus my energies for the next 90 days. That's one of the best ways I know to get early wins is to know who you're dealing with early so that you got all the horsepower focused in the right places.
All right. And tell the audience a little bit about you.
I've been a marketer for about 40 years. I started Granite Partners about 20 years ago to
Started
offer.
when you were 3 years old. Yeah, I
Yes.
get it. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you very much for the compliment. I appreciate it. Just after the dinosaurs left, I started, and you would be amazed at how things have changed in that time. I've been doing this a long time, and we used to paste up with CompuGraphic text. That'll give you a clue as to how far back that was.
Ooh, wow. Okay. All right. Hi, Jeff.
Hey, Dean, how are you?
Good, thank you. Okay, so same question. Let folks know a little bit about you, and then talk about what a fractional CMO does in the first 90 days on the job.
Yeah, so I've been in marketing for 20 plus years. I started at Google. I was there kind of even before Gmail existed, right? Going back, it's odd to think that we used Outlook. And I was there for about 8 years, and then realized I was only getting the marketing world through the lens of a publisher, and wanted to experience more of the world of marketing. I left to help run an agency, did that for some time before joining the corporate marketing world. And I started my company about 3 years ago with a focus on helping startups who often have great products and services, but don't necessarily have the strongest go-to-market strategies. Right. Okay. And so in my first 90 days, there's a lot of the getting to know you, right? There's a lot of questions, what exists, what doesn't exist, how do people within the organization think about the company and the brand? And I also tell my clients as well that in that first 30 days, there are a few deliverables. It's more education. Right. And outside of that 30-day period, that's when the deliverables start to happen. That's when there's more actionable information. And my goal with my clients is within that 90 days, we've kind of built the foundation of what their brand and their strategy should be. And then we begin the process of starting to implement it.
Right. Okay, so let's switch away from being the fractional CMO for a second then. Like, let's imagine that I'm your client's CEO, right? Chances are I had to, lobby a bit. I had to do a bit of horse trading to get the budget for a 1-year engagement for a fractional CMO. Okay, how am I as a CEO, or how is my company going to get maximum? Like, I want every last penny of value I can eke out of that fractional CMO in the year that I'm going to have him or her. Like, how do I get maximum value from my 1 year with you?
Yeah, I tell my clients that fractional CMOs and fractionals in general, but specifically CMOs, bring almost all of the strategy at a fraction of the price, right? There's no, concept of I'm only going to give you half of the strategy. It's you're going to get the knowledge and the experience that I have, but my time focused on your business, while limited in some capacities, just means that I am very much executional, strategic, without the lunch breaks, without the walking around the office, without the things that do take up time in a day, that I'm focused on output. And so that's how my clients and CEOs, when they question the cost structure or the efficiency of a fractional CMO, that's the process I walk through with them. Is they're getting my 20 years of experience in working with startups to help design and build the process that's going to help them in the long run. And it means that my time dedicated to them is kind of my all-in time.
Yeah. Okay. David, can I ask that question again? But I want to invert it. All right. So, in your experience, since you've been in marketing since you were 3 years old, in your long experience, how do companies waste the money that they spend on a fractional CMO? Like, what do they shouldn't be doing, or keep doing that they shouldn't be doing, or what do they not do, and that ends up like reducing the effectiveness of that fractional CMO?
In my experience, a lot of companies don't quite have the problem locked in. The reason they asked for a fractional CMO or thought that was a good idea to begin with. It's not so much you're explaining the construct and the limited time, although those are certainly important. I found that it's more access to information that is lacking. If I have to sit down with 6, 8, 9 people and do interviews internally to extract information, that's a fairly efficient process if I can get an hour a piece undivided with those folks that really have all the goods. Proper onboarding probably is one of the best ways to do that, in that I have to be treated just like any other employee in order to get the institutional knowledge that I need to not be making impossible demands of the team or those around me on collateral levels. So if I know what can be done and I know what they have done and I know what they're capable of doing, now we can go forward and execute on the strategy I will eventually devise before the end of the 90-day period, and we'll all be on the same page and they won't have hidden anything from me. I shouldn't have to be a gold miner digging in there for bits and pieces of things they've done in the past that either worked well or failed miserably to gain the education I need to help them. They should be wanting to help me get all the information and get my hands on as much as I possibly can to speed the process and make it more effective and more efficient.
Okay, let's talk about them.
Do you mind if I jump in on that for one?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of the things that I've encountered with startup founders and CEOs, that you talk about wasting money in bringing on a fractional CMO, is startup founders and CEOs who have designed and built and poured their heart and soul into a product or a service think they are also best equipped to bring it to market. And so the challenge that comes with a wasted investment in a CMO is when these founders say, I just need you to do this. It's my vision. Please go execute upon X. And that's not what fractional CMOs are about. I walk in the door. My job is not, hey, tell me what you need me to do. It's let me learn your business so I can tell you what we need to do.
Yeah.
And that is sometimes the big disconnect, where a founder or a CEO thinks they're hiring a fractional CMO just to carry the ball and run with it, and not devise the strategic plan on how to do all of the things required to bring a brand to market.
It's like
agreed. I've found that what I call the founder release is always very difficult, because those guys have done it from day one. They know the product best. They know the engineering best. They know the service best. They know how they built it. They know why they built it. They have a vision in their head, but they don't quite know what to do with the vision. My best bet, share it with me. Then we can both work towards the same goal at the same time without you constantly stepping in and interfering, because that's what you're doing. You're slowing the process down when you do that. You're not expediting it. You have to let go. Delegation is the toughest thing CEOs face in the founder stage, specifically when they're early on and they have done everything. They have done the entire ball of wax, from accounting to office space to operations to everything else, because it was their baby. Okay, well, you're now giving up one portion of that baby. I'll just take an arm or a leg, please, that's marketing, and we'll go ahead and do what we need to do with it and make sure that it's growing in harmony with the rest of the body. You have to let go of that in order to let me do that. And that will waste time and money if you do not, because we're now not harmoniously working towards a goal. We're at cross purposes, because I'm constantly trying to undo and redo, which is expensive.
Let's talk about the marketing team, such as it is, that might already be in place there, right? Most likely junior and mid-level folks, right? Let's think about what the state they're in on day one, and sort of project ourselves into the end of the year, 12 months later. How is the marketing team different because a fractional CMO has been involved for a year?
Day one, fear.
Sure.
Because they don't know what's
They're
coming.
afraid that you're a hatchet guy or something.
They are worried for their jobs. They're worried for their futures. They're worried for their performance. They're worried for someone going to find out that they've made a mistake or missed something. They are terrified day one. My job is to waylay those fears and negate and mitigate those fears so that we can all start fresh and work together. One of the first statements out of my mouth when I walk in the door is, I said, until I know otherwise, your job is safe. Relax, take a breath. Let's find out what's going on, because I have walked into places and had the director just below me leave that day as a matter of fear, because he didn't know what to expect. He felt disrespected because they had hired me to come in and fix things that he thought were his problem. And as it turns out, that was the smartest thing the company could have done. But they didn't mind his exit near as much after about a week of digging around. So sometimes those fears are well grounded. Most of the time, they're not. Most of the time, the benefit that the team is going to get at the end is one of organization, direction, support, and education. They're going to feel extremely confident in being able to fail, because that's how we learn, that's how we gain, that's how we grow. If we can fail delicately and deliberately and mindfully so that we learn from the failure and not just throw money down a rat hole, then we will take those learnings and go forward stronger, better, faster, smarter. And as soon as they feel safe doing that, things accelerate like an Elon Musk rocket. It's amazing how fast they go, because once they get that security under them and quit worrying about stuff, the more creative, the more positive, the more productive they all are. And everybody learns that way because they're listening to what I'm telling them to do and saying, geez, why didn't I think of that? Well, after a while, they'll start thinking of that. And my job is to work my way out of that job at the end of the year and have things run smoothly and continue to project on an upward trajectory going forward.
And Jeff, what do you think? What are like the one or two changes you normally see in a marketing department after you or a fractional CMO has been around for a while?
One of the things I see most is giving opportunities to people on the team who may have felt stuck in whatever role that they had.
Right.
And specifically, they may not have understood the other opportunities that were available to them. They may not understand the different skill sets that go with being a marketer, and that there is no one size fits all. And so part of my over communication to a pre-existing marketing team is to explain part of my role is also to help set them up on a career path.
Mm-hmm.
I want to walk out the door after a year, whatever that time frame is, and have people not only in roles that they can thrive on currently, but also have set them up for where they may want to go long term. So whether that means education, training courses, conferences, getting mentors or other people to help, I want them to feel empowered to find what it is that's going to get them motivated and excited to continue building a career in marketing.
Well, let's talk about the most junior person in that marketing team, right? Like the whether you want that to be the youngest or the newest employee, right? The most junior employee in that marketing team. What is that person going to learn, or what should that person be asking or trying to do to take advantage of the presence of a very senior marketing person for the next year?
So the most junior person needs to be the biggest sponge on the team. I've stepped into situations where the most junior person was a recent college graduate who had interned at the organization for a few months.
Right.
And this was their first foray into, a full-time gig. And this person I went to almost immediately and said, hey, look, stick with me. Let me help you. And I'm going to overwork you in some ways. Like you may feel overworked in some ways. But the only reason why you may feel that way is because I want you involved in everything so you can see all of the things that go into a marketing organization, into a strategy, into execution, because I want you to start to think about things that you care about, things that you excel at, things that you look at and say, I don't even understand this concept at all, so I can help you in building that path forward. But most importantly, my biggest ask of the junior members is ask me questions. Do not be afraid to ever come to me and say, I don't know something, or I'm confused, or help me, please. And all of those things. It is not a sign of that they are, incapable of doing that job. It's a sign of maturity that they want to get better at their job.
All right. David, I have like a variation of that question that came to me when Jeff was talking. So you're in place, right? And you established you're like whatever weeks, months in, and I'm the most junior person on the marketing team, and I come to you and say, hey, I think there's an opportunity for me here, especially since it's kind of I'm just getting started. Can you tell me like the one or two things you'd want to make sure someone would have told you when you were starting out? Of course, David, you were 3 years old back when you started in marketing, but let's assume you were in your mid-20s, right? What do you wish someone had told you when you were just starting out in marketing?
Oh, there's a bunch of things. As a 3-year-old, I was quite a baby at the
You were
time.
very precocious at 3. Yeah, let's
It was
stick to one or
difficult
two
to
things. Yeah,
tease all the little pieces out. I
give
do
me the big
remember
lessons.
one boss taking me aside and go, there's as much art involved in this as there is science, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to develop enough empathy, not only to work with the team, but to understand the audience much better than anybody here does. And that is what's going to drive your success in marketing in general, is to understand the audience, what motivates them, what they like and don't like. And I would impart that to a young person because empathy is not on their list even at that age. They're just blasting through life,
Right.
hoping to get the rent paid and make some friends and go to a party. It's a whole lot different ballgame, especially nowadays when there's so much more attention drawn to their image and likeness and voice and persona, and they're all out there building personal brands online and yada yada. It's a very busy time in their lives. And if you just take back a step and breathe and say, okay, I'm going to focus on understanding this audience and how the mechanics are of understanding that audience, no matter where I am, not just our customers, but anybody's
Right.
customers. Figure out the mechanics, figure out what questions you need to ask, figure out who you need to talk to, and figure out where those opportunities are to shine with that knowledge. Because once you have that, you get invited to all kinds of high-level meetings going, well, tell us what our customers think about this. Suddenly you're an expert. And it's a very big chasm to cross if you don't have anything to back up your opinions. And everybody's got opinions, but if you're the one that's talked to 55 people in the last month, and those opinions are based on those conversations, you've got a leg up on a lot of people in that company. It's very important to do that. And you can only do that by developing empathy for others. It's a tool you'll use for the rest of your life.
Okay. I have like one sort of last question that I'd like both of you to tackle. Okay, David, we can start with you. I'm just going to be blunt about this. There are easier ways to make a living than being a fractional CMO. I mean, come on, right? Why do you do this job?
There are a number of reasons.
Yeah.
There are actually. I enjoy the autonomy because I can now pick and choose who I work with, and who you
It's
work
very
with
nice.
is
Yeah.
almost as important as what you
Yes,
do.
it is. Yes.
So I think that choice sort of helps. Finding people to choose from among is a much bigger challenge, and setting up pipelines. It's like any other business. You have to have all the other business skills on top of what it is you're delivering to clients. And when it was labeled as a consultant and you would come in and do small projects and that kind of thing, it becomes a treadmill. I mean, you're either selling the job, doing the job, buying the job, billing the job.
Yeah.
It's this endless cycle of stuff. And I wasn't able to provide the impact I needed to customers. But when you're doing 12 to 18 month engagements and you can really embed yourself like a tick in that company and get stuff done, then it becomes much more satisfying and much more impactful for both you and the company to be able to do that at a level that you can actually make a difference. Consultants are often shunted off to the sides there and hope they gain some access and maybe make a difference. If you're sitting in that C-suite, you're now pushing around some pretty big chess pieces, and it's time to start thinking about how that's going to impact that company for years in advance. So you kind of get to play with the big boys, and you don't have to like them all because you're not going to be there forever.
Yeah.
So it gives you a way to get impact, but you can also sleep at night because it's kind of like being an attorney. You're hired to do a job. You get in, you do the job, and then you go, hopefully leaving things better than when you started. That's always been of great importance. And that's one of the reasons I do this. The other is it's fun. It's a blast when you get to go in there and start impacting companies at that level. It becomes fun. It's like learning an instrument. Your first 3 or 4 years in band sucked because you couldn't play that thing worth the darn, and you didn't understand what was going on, and it all sounded terrible because nobody knew what they were doing. By the time you're in, college band, it's starting to be fun because you've mastered that, and you really can make that thing sing. And then you can work with others, and it's collaborative and it's enjoyable. Much, much different ballgame when you've got the levels of experience I bring into a client.
Right. Jeff, what do you think? Why do this job?
I think for me, I do this job for a few reasons. One is definitely the autonomy factor and choosing the people that I get to work with, which is so vital to, bringing me joy, right? Like I want to surround myself with great people. I want to learn from great people. And so finding those opportunities where I'm selective, I get to choose what I'm learning and from whom is really important to me and one of the key aspects. The other for me is kind of why I decided to really focus on startups is we don't know what a startup can and will be yet. Right. There are startups that are going to cure cancer. There are startups that are going to find ways to make meaningful impact on this world. And if I can play any small role in helping take a startup that either, was challenged in launching or, is preparing for their launch and helping to facilitate success, hoping that in turn makes a difference in a bigger, broader way, that brings me a sense of fulfillment that, I can't get most other places or, in a different type of role. So for me, it's also about that, the leaving a lasting impact on more than just the 1 year I may have spent or 2 years spend as a fractional CMO for an organization.
Yeah. Okay, Jeff, who should contact you and how should they do it?
So founders, CEOs of startups that are either, on the verge of getting ready to launch, they have a great product, they have a great service, or those that are, already launched and out there, but are struggling with some of their, marketing strategies, their brand recognition, and looking to understand how they can penetrate sometimes oversaturated markets. That's my sweet spot. And so they can visit me at misnomer.co or shoot me an email, jeff@misnomer.co. Okay. And I'd absolutely love to do a free assessment for them and find ways in which I might be able to help them.
David, how about you? Who should contact you these days and how?
I'm easy to find. If you are the CEO of a company between $15 and $50 million in revenue, who has a small team that has been struggling to get their act together because it's been primarily ad hoc up until now, and you need somebody to take the reins and get all those cats running in the same direction to grow and scale like you wanted it to, give me a call. I can be found on LinkedIn. I can be found on Amazon as the author of several books. I can be found on Facebook and other social media prompts, and davidpoulos.com as well, with complete case studies, histories, pricing, the works.
All right. Pricing, right on. All right, thank you guys so much. This has been really great. I always love it when no matter what kind of curveball I try to turn a question into, everybody just skates. Awesome. It's nice to see professionals at work.
Thanks.
All right. See you, Jeff. See you, David. Thanks everyone, and see you in the next.